Welcome back to the Poker Model Hand Breakdown. Let's see what we got going on today. So I am holding King Jack with 52,000 chips. Blinds are 501,000, and I'm sitting in the cutoff +1. The action folds to me. Now, because I have a stack that's over 20 big blinds, I have a wider range of hands that I can come into the pot with. King Jack is one of those, King Queen, any ace, any pocket pair, and some suited connectors that are over 5, and then suited one-offs like 9-7, and also two-offs like 10-7. So the action's on me. Like we said before, we always want to come into the pot raising. This gives us the ability to take control of the hand and potentially make a continuation bet on the flop. The stacks to my left are all over small stacks except for the button. So if I am 3-bet or re-raised by any of these people on my left, I'll fold King Jack. It's just not a good enough hand to make the call or play a pot after a 3-bet because I want to be all in and dominating my opponent. And so King Jack will most likely not do that against the button going all in here. So I made the raise to 2,000 and I'm called by the cutoff on my left. The flop comes Jack 6-5 and the action's on me. Just like in all other hands, you'll notice here, we're always going through the same processes. It's like anything, it's like a foul shot in basketball. We're gonna check the same variables. We're gonna look at the flop that we have, and then we're gonna make decisions based on that. You're probably getting sick of me saying this, but you have to check right now if you have a good, bad, or mediocre hand. If I had a bad hand, I would make a standard continuation bet trying to get my opponent to fold. If I had a good hand, like pocket jacks, Jack 6, Jack 5, 2-pair or better, then I'm going to make a continuation bet in an effort to build the pot and hope my opponent gets tricky. But here I have top pair, and according to the poker model, top pair is a mediocre hand. It's a hand that I'm going to check with and see what my opponent does. If he checks behind me, then we'll take a look on the turn and see what we can do there. If he bets, then I already know I'm going to call. I'm always going to call 1 bet in this situation after checking with a mediocre hand. Now, I'm sure most of your life you've been taught to bet here with top pair. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying you shouldn't ever bet top pair in your life. What I'm showing you here is how the poker model helps you avoid really tough decisions like this one potentially has with medium or large stack and top pair. You know, there's all these draws. Things can get really, really tricky here. And so what I want to do is I want to keep my stack manageable and I want to not put myself at risk. And even though I have something here, it doesn't mean I need to bet the house and build a huge pot. You'll find that's how you're losing a lot of hands in a lot of tournaments because you just have these tough decisions by the river. So for that reason, I make a check. My opponent bets. And I make the call. Okay, now the pot is a little bit bigger. We still have top pair because a 10 comes on the turn, and the action's back on me. So I'm in a very similar situation here. I don't just want to start betting now and building the pot when I'm really not sure if I have the best hand or not. I probably do, but I don't really know. So I make a similar check on the turn. And now the action's on my opponent again. So I want to take a second here to target a concept that we call the second bet. So if my opponent is going to bet on the flop after I check, and then on the turn again, if the action is on him, if he makes a big bet here, we call that the second bet. The second bet is really scary because it's going to make the pot very large. Let's say he bets 9,000. Well, now I have to call 9,000 more to get to the river where I'm just still not sure if I have the best hand. And there's going to be about 30,000 in the pot. And now I'm actually getting close to being at risk here to moving under the 20 big blind mark and being a short stack. If for whatever reason I'm wrong, if it's a spade, if it's a straight that hits, there's a lot of hands here that are risky. So for that reason, with mediocre hands like this, I will fold to a second bet. It may seem like a really bad fold. It might seem like, man, you had top pair. He could have been betting twice with anything, bluffing, whatever. That's fine. That's all fine. I like to be in control. I like to understand that he could be bluffing and that'll happen once in a while, but a lot of times I'm going to be really beat here. Maybe he has pocket queens, pocket aces. Again, Jack 10, there's all types of hands. Even if it is a draw, it's possible that the river will help him. And now I'm facing a huge decision on the river for my whole tournament. So for that reason, I have to have the discipline according to the poker model. Different players will do different things, and a lot of professionals would not do this play. But what's worked for me is not having to guess. I can't read anyone's faces through online. All I can do is look at these numbers. So if there's a second bet here, I'm going to fold. But my opponent checks. Okay, now the action's back on me. Think about all the hands that my opponent could have had here. Draws, two pair, over pairs, whatever. The 9 of spades is a card that gives him a lot of more potential than he had before. So sure, I'm still sitting here with top pair, but now if he bet the flop with a flush draw, and checked it and made it on the river, I'm beat. If he bet the flop with something like 8-7 suited or whatever, even 7-4, people, again, can do anything with any two cards, then I'm beat. If he had something like Jack 9, if he had 10-9, you just never know. Maybe it was a set that he slow played. All those hands are beating. Maybe it's Ace Jack. They're beating my King Jack. So what I like to do again is I like to have full control over my stack and what I'm doing, and knowing that no matter what happens here, I'm making it to the next hand in the tournament, and I'm going to play that one as best as I can. So what I do is I say, you know what, I'm going to make a river blocker bet, which is a bet that's about 1/3 the size of the pot here. So what I do is I make a bet of 4,000. And I'm saying to myself, there's only one of three things that can happen. My opponent can call, in which case I'll flip my hand over and I'll find out what he had, which could be a plethora of things. Some I'm beating and some I'm not. He could fold, and that's great because I won the hand. I wasn't at any risk, and I had some pretty easy decisions to make along the way. Or he could raise. If he raises, I have to really, really have the discipline to fold. I shouldn't have bet 4,000 here if I was going to call a raise over the top. I could have checked and said, look, there's 11,500 in the pot, and I'll call whatever bet it is because that bet will keep me over 20 big blinds. But remember, you're trying to control the pot, and if you make this play, you have to have the discipline to understand that you decide already that if he raised, you were going to fold. So no matter how hard or tricky the situation is or feels like, you have to make that fold. Let's see what my opponent does. So he raises, and unfortunately, I had top pair. It's a pretty good hand, but because of the way the betting worked out, I have to fold. So I fold my hand, and I lose a pot. Again, let's look on the bright side. I lost 9,000 chips in this hand. I still have 43,000, can still win the whole tournament. At no point in this hand with top pair was I at risk, and even though I didn't take the conventional way and bet the flop, bet the turn, whatever, you can see that the pot's just going to build if I do that, if he's still in the hand, and I could potentially lose a much bigger one on the river. So again, this looks like a hand where I was probably ahead at some point, and I was probably behind on the river. I will never know, but I challenge you to try this out, 10 times, 100 times, however many times you want. If you're playing for free or really low stakes, just experiment with calling that all in on the river, and you'll see that most of the time, you'll be beat. So again, keep the pot small, try out the river blocker bet. Thanks again for checking out the Poker Model Hand Breakdown today, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.